Well, my name's Alex Mills. I'm from a company called Chess Logistics Technology. We've been around a long time in warehouse management systems, as I'll go on to tell you. What I'm actually talking to you about today is a product, a different product, which we're in the process of launching, which is known as ProSku. Today's theme is obviously how technology can help you meet the challenges presented by growth in e-tailing, or e-retailing should I call it. And obviously those challenges will depend on who you are and what you do, how e-retailing affects you, your business. You may be an e-retailer, you may be a manufacturer or a wholesaler, retailer selling your products online, or you may be in the e-logistics side of the business in terms of fulfillment or as a carrier or forwarder. But even if you're not in any of those and you're sort of solidly in bricks and clicks, there's obviously one thing that I'd like to say, which is that if you're handling any form of goods, having a good warehouse management system is what you need to be doing. But just before I talk about that, a little bit of background to Chess. As I said, it's been around a long time, going back to '79, not always in this field, because nobody really heard of a warehouse management system in 1979. But certainly for 25 years plus, getting on 30 years probably, in the warehouse management marketplace. And I don't know how many of you remember well 30 years ago, but there was very little sort of software of any kind around for logistics in those days. It was, certainly the concept of anything except e-buy gum, was probably non-existent because the internet hadn't really started. But over that time, we've worked with a lot of customers in third-party logistics, wholesale and retail. And we've also encountered quite a lot of different technologies over that time as well. So we've seen some very important technologies arrive in the logistics marketplace and the retail marketplace, which have become established, like RF, voice, things like that, EDI obviously. We've also seen a few fads come and go. But the internet, as somebody once said, changes everything. I think it was probably Bill Gates. And it's been the biggest technological change of all. It's not just forced to rethink about how technology serves the retail and logistics business. It's changed the whole way of operating of the retail and logistics business, as our last contributor, I think, sort of hinted at. As a company, we'd kind of worked with warehouse management systems for several years in what we might call the non-E world. And the technology that had arrived in the last, say, 15, 20 years was all stuff that could be built around our existing product. But I think we decided that it was time that we actually looked at what the e-world, if you like, needed. And the result of that was developing a completely new product known as ProSku. So I hear somebody saying I don't, but I'm imagining I might, somebody saying, okay, it's just a warehouse management system. Tell us why this is specifically suited to the e-retailing marketplace. Well, number one, accessibility. It's a software as a service product, so you don't need to install anything. That's the first major issue, I suppose. It's very accessible in the sense that you can trial it for free. You can sign up for a short trial, and if you like it after that short trial, you can sign up for a 1 month minimum. There's no minimum contract of 12 months or 24 months, so you can effectively be off and running. You don't need a feasibility study that's going to cost you X thousand pounds in order just to see what the software does for you. You can actually try it yourself. Payment facilities are very easy. You can start it off with a credit card. You can sign up for direct debit with an online form, things like that. And of course, the beauty of it all is it's a 24-hour web access solution. Speed. Everything about e-retailing is fast and getting faster. What people in e-retail or e-fulfillment don't need is a warehouse management system that's going to take 3 months to implement. In fact, they don't need one that's going to take 6 months to implement. They want something, we think, that can be implemented within days, not weeks. I hope to give you a hint of how easy it is in a bit. Quite often that will be with sort of minimal experience and therefore, they want minimal training, but quite often minimal experience, because a lot of the people in the e-retail world now are very small companies that develop from sort of, working from home, man and wife team, all this kind of thing. They don't necessarily have warehouse management experiences. In some cases, they may be unfamiliar with the concept of a warehouse management system. They don't, in a sense that they don't know they need one. So speed, in terms of bringing it to the user, is vital. Technology is also a key part of this. Specialist web products designed for the e-retail environment, they need to be developed in the appropriate language and framework that allows them to sit on the web and work with other web applications. That's absolutely vital. We actually chose to develop our product in a language called Ruby on Rails. Interesting name. Don't know whether anyone's heard of it. Forget about GitHub, but that's something that you use with it. One of the good things about Ruby on Rails is that it's called an open source product, which some of the benefits of which are the fact that it's constantly developed by people, but it's all cost-free. It's developed by its contributors in a sense. But the other advantage of it, of course, is that you don't need to pass on any license fees, for example, Microsoft license fees in terms of what you charge your users. And database agnosticity, I'm just get my tongue around that, is also important, the ability for your product to work with any database should that be necessary. So these are all important technological factors which have make this product, I hope, more suitable for the web and web applications. Integration, so it's beyond just technology. It needs to speak with other web applications, and it needs to do it through something called an API, or possibly an open API. I've even heard the phrase public API, although I'm not sure about that. And what that does, basically, it's a way of communicating with your system, which is open to everybody else to use. So in other words, if they want to send information into your system or get information out of your system, there's an existing tool called the API with which they can do that with minimal configuration. And what is this configuration all about, really? From the point of view of a warehouse management system, it's about what we call shopping carts. You're all familiar with eBay and Amazon. You may not be so familiar with names like Magento, Channel Advisor, Linworks, etc. But if I give you an example, that WooCommerce, for example, which I mean I hadn't heard of until relatively recently, is actually used by about 37% of e-retailers in the world. So these are sort of absolutely massive products. And the important thing from a warehouse point of view is to be able to speak to these shopping carts easily, to pull order information down, to update stock information, and so on. And at the back end, in a similar way, it's about integrating with carrier management solutions. People want to choose their carriers most economically according to the size of parcels and the route and all this kind of thing. And products that do that are products like Metapack, Hypership, which I'm sure you've heard of, Scurry, Electrio, NetDispatch, OpenDispatch. I mean, there's literally dozens of these products. And they can all be communicated with if you have the right means to do it, e.g. the API. Flexibility. As we know, the internet has introduced new working patterns, changed the world. You know, everybody's working from home or running a business from home, working while they commute, doing various forms of remote mobile working. So a warehouse management system, in our view, must be, like any other solution, a go-anywhere solution. Something that you can use in the office on a PC, on a laptop or a tablet, in the car, while you're watching Manchester United play on your phone. Sorry, that was just last season. And it's truly, it's what we call, also very appropriate for BYOD, which is bring your own device. So in other words, you know, I'm not suggesting that all your warehouse employees would want to bring their own devices and start working on it, but it just gives that kind of flexibility because it can go onto any device and work. And look and feel. People are very familiar nowadays with web applications, and they know they expect a certain look and feel. We all book tickets on EasyJet and this kind of thing. So it's important that your product looks like something of the age, something that people are familiar with, I suppose. It will probably use something called a bootstrap. Don't ask me to go on about that much, which is a sort of design template for web-based screens. And generally, it will embody what we call responsive web design, which is the ability to, I'm trying to think of the right word, transpose itself onto any device that you're using. So, about the screen size shrinking when you look at it on a phone as opposed to a tablet, as opposed to a PC. So all of that has got to be kind of a key part of the technology you develop. Okay, so finally, what does it do for the warehouse? I'm not really here to sell you the product today, believe it or not, really just to tell you why I thought it was suitable for this marketplace that is the sort of theme of today's gathering. What we haven't tried to do with this product is recreate an enterprise solution. We already do systems that are suitable for very big warehouses with 100 pickers and using all manner of technology. And what we've done with this is really aimed the product specifically at the lower end of the marketplace. It's not just specifically the retail marketplace, it can be small companies involved in third-party logistics or wholesale, the public sector, wherever they happen to have a need for it. It's a standard solution, as we may have mentioned, but obviously over time, because the e-retail marketplace is developing, it's going to be a product that will develop. So to a certain extent, it's reasonably basic at the moment and satisfies a certain need. We will start upgrading it and make it suit other needs in the future. But our guiding principle really is that it must be easy to set up and easy to use. So what I wanted to do now, very quickly, and I may need to sit down to do this, was basically just show you, if I can just make this work, using a mouse. Just show you a little bit about the system, and I wanted to show you how easy it is really to sort of start with a system that's got nothing in it and just start running a warehouse effectively. So I'm going to log on to this. Just bear with me a moment. Oops. Okay, so we've gone into a system. This is what it looks like. I mean, this is what you call the welcome screen, which has got a few gadgets on to sort of give you various information and so forth. The menu on the left-hand side tells you what the system will do. You can receive, you can order, you can transfer, all the usual things you'd expect from a warehouse management system. And as I say, this has got no data in, and what I wanted to do, I'll just first pull up my chair. I wanted to follow what I call my quick start guide, which is something in our operating instructions, which basically describes a few simple steps you can go through from a standing start really to sort of prove that the warehouse management system functions as what it's intended to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is create some locations to store my goods in. And in order to do that, I'll go into this bit here called depot setup and go into zones and locations. Don't get confused by the fact there's already a marshalling zone in there. It has to be set up as a default for the system. I'm going to set up what we call a storage zone. I'm just going to call that, let's call it zone for the sake of argument. I'm going to give it a code which is going to be Z1. I'm going to say create a zone. So okay, we've got a zone created now, which is a storage zone called Zone 1. I'm going to now set up some locations in that. The system's very flexible in terms of the way you can do this, but I'm just going to keep it very simple and go for something fairly traditional in terms of, I'm just going to set up one rack effectively. And go for, say, 10 locations. And I'm going to say there's a couple of levels, and I'm going to call those levels A and B. Okay, so also the other thing I'm going to do, just to keep things nice and simple, is set up and say that each location in that block of racking or whatever it is can take one pallet. So I'll create the locations. That'll just whir for a moment because it is a web product. It's like booking tickets on EasyJet. So what we've now got is a zone with 20 locations in it, block A, 10 columns, 2 levels high, etc. Okay, so I've now got somewhere I can store goods. What I now want is the means to, I want some goods to store in it. So I'm going to go into depot setup again. I'm going to, screen's a bit small here, just set up a product. Okay, so I'm going to click on new product. I'm going to say the product code is going to be called whatever, an AN01. And I can give it a description if I want and call it super product. Oops. Okay, I'm going to say that this is, for the sake of argument, a pallet and case product, just to keep life simple. So it comes in pallets and it's got cases on the pallets. I'm going to say that I want it to be something that can be put away in the system automatically without me having to find locations. So I'm going to check that box and I'm going to say I want it to store it in the zone we just set up. Okay, and that, for the moment at least, is all I actually need to do to create a product in the system. So again, very simple process. So I've now got locations in the system and I've got a product in the system. So I want to somehow to bring this two together. So I go into this little receipts option here, and I click on new receipt. I can put in some references if I want to, it's not important, and I can say create me some headed information for this receipt. I'm now going to add a product to it, so I can say there's our product. What do I want to receive? Well, let's just keep things simple and say we want to receive 3 pallets, and I'll say add that item, and I'm now going to say process that, and it's going to receive them and put them away automatically, which is what it's now done. So if I go into this little section here called movements, we can see that I've got a movement list. If I like a put away list, this can be represented on a handheld device, by the way, as well. It's not just a paper thing. But if I want to print a paper put away list, I can do that. It's coming, I'm sure it is. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so there's my put away list, and if I want, that can be used obviously as the same as a handheld device to put the goods away. Once that's done, either with a handheld device or back at this screen here, I can just say all movements have been done. If they haven't all been done, I can say, okay, well, one's been done and the others haven't. Or I could say, well, there's been some problems with this and I want to do some editing, so I've got to move it to a different location, or I've got to recalculate the numbers put away. Various exceptions you might want to deal with, but just to keep life simple, we'll say all movements done and we'll confirm. So what I've now done, I've created a zone, I've created a product, and I've actually received 3 pallets of product in, and they're now stored. And it's all been done automatically in terms of the thinking about where it goes, because I've set up a rule to say put them in there. Okay, so the one last part of the element, or not quite the one last thing, but the next element is say, okay, well, we want to order some of that product. So I'll click for a new order. All I need to do really here is put in a delivery address. Let's say that's me. Okay. And create the header information. Don't need to put any information in if I don't want to. And of course, if you're receiving orders electronically, you wouldn't have to put that in at all. That would come in from another system, and it's not a manual process. So I'm just really showing you what's in the background to that. So as we did with receipts, I can add some product to that, and I'll say, okay, I want to order some of my super product out. So I'll click on super product, and it says how much do you want to order. It knows that my ordering unit is in cases rather than full pallets, but it wouldn't matter. If you wanted a full pallet, you could order 50 or whatever it happens to be. I don't know what we set up. It might be one case to a pallet. In fact, it is. So on that basis, I'm going to order 2 cases. Okay, so I'll just click add item. So I'm just ordering 2 cases. If I want to check that I've got that stock in, I can do a check, and it'll say, okay, you've got 2 cases available here. Very good. Okay, so I now go back and I say I want to process that to a picking instruction. Click process, and that's turned it into a picking instruction. If I now go into movements, I can pick up on that in the way I did with receipts and say, okay, I'd like to produce a picking documentation, so I can print that off. Okay, so it tells me that to go and, it's actually slightly incorrect, it's the note rather than the thing, but it's telling me to go and pick 1 pallet with 1 case, but you're only actually just picking 1 case, but it's a minor terminology issue on the note rather than the actual system. So, as you did with receipts, you can confirm those movements as complete and say they're done. That will now transfer the order into what we call dispatch, where a number of things may need to happen. For example, you might want to be integrated with your carrier software, produce carrier dispatch labels, all that kind of thing. But for the purposes of this, it's very straightforward. I can confirm it as dispatched, or if I want to, I can print a delivery note first. And hey presto, we have a delivery note saying we're sending out 2 cases of super product to Alex Mills. Okay, straightforward. So all I need to do now is confirm, say I'm sure, and that's it. So really from a standing start, from a warehouse management system that had nothing in it, I've basically just put 1 product, a group of locations, and I've done a receipt, put it away, I've ordered it, and I've sent it out and dispatched it, produced the documentation. It's dead simple. I hope you'll agree.